all corners of the globe to your ears, it's the Midnight Movie Cowboys. Sometimes informative, sometimes controversial, but always unpredictable. It's the Midnight Movie Cowboys podcast with your hosts, Hunter, John, and Stu. And now, on with the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Midnight Movie Cowboys. I am Hunter, and in the Rocky Mountain High of Colorado, we got Mr. John Gray. Say hello, John.
Hello.
No Stuart this week. Stuart's gone. We killed him. We staked him through the heart. He's dead. Captain Kronos killed him.
He rang the bells. The bells were ringing, and then we got him.
Yes. So this week we are talking about Hammer, the Hammer film Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter, directed by Avengers scribe, a guy you're a big fan of, John, Brian Clemens. His only feature film that he directed. What the heck?
Yes, the only time he ever directed anything.
I think he did an episode of Shooting Gallery or Night. What was it? Hold on. Let me see. He did an episode of Shooting Gallery. That's according to IMDb.
Okay, yeah, it's probably accurate. Let's see. No, we're checking our IMDb's here.
Yeah, just double checking.
But Lord, he wrote a lot.
He wrote a lot, man. He wrote Avengers. He wrote Watcher in the Woods for Disney. He wrote Highlander 2.
Mm-hmm.
What else did he write? He wrote a lot of stuff. He wrote episodes of Thriller.
He wrote most episodes of Thriller. The Thriller he wrote was a show he created, which was an anthology suspense show. It's not related to the Boris Karloff.
Oh, okay. Well,
this is the British Thriller or Thriller UK or whatever they want to call it, you know.
British.
But yeah, he wrote for every major British detective action series. I mean, he's got a script in there.
And he wrote the Richard Fleischer thriller, See No Evil, starring a very young Mia Farrow.
Yeah, he wrote And Soon the Darkness, said to be a terrific suspense film. I've got a Blu-ray that I bought from Kino Lorber, still haven't watched it. I need to. He wrote Golden Voyage of Sinbad, which most people think is the best written Ray Harryhausen film, and I would agree with that. He wrote a lot of stuff for American TV. Like, he was just one of those guys you could just call him up, tell him you could pay him for a script, and he'd have a script for you for your show, like, right away. He's just that type of pro. They don't seem to exist anymore in the business. Now everybody's on tour. Brian Clemens is the type of guy. Wonderful contribution to what he did for the Avengers. He made that show the way we know it today. You know, if you watch the early Avengers when he wasn't in control, it's really not the same show. And he kind of shaped it into what it became. And it's like, but he also could just do a solid script. If you needed a Perry Mason TV movie, he would write it up, and then you had it.
Well, and I kind of feel like Captain Kronos it feels like a setup for a bigger thing.
It was.
You know, the movie.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, it felt like they were setting the table for more movies, maybe a TV show. And apparently it didn't come to pass because the Hammer Brass didn't like the movie. And
yes, it's totally true.
Yeah, and they released it like 2 years after they saw it. And apparently Caroline Munro said she had no idea the movie even came out. Like the promotion was that bad on it.
Well, it was dumped in England. They paired it with an English dub of the Shaw Brothers Wuxia film Golden Swallow under the title The Girl with a Thunderbolt Kick with Wang Yu and Chin Pei Pei. And so it was a double. It was always said they double feature with a kung fu film, probably because it was swords and blood, and they kind of could easily pair them. So in England, it was completely dumped. In America, it actually did okay. I think it was. It might have been. I know Paramount put it out on video. I don't know who actually released it. It might have been Paramount, but they actually did okay with it in theaters. It's always had a pretty decent following in the U.S. And I remember seeing it on television in the 80s. Commander USA's Groovy Movies on USA on Saturday afternoons would show it frequently. And they loved rerunning this.
And it was always available on video too. Like I always saw the DVD at the store. You know, it's never been hard to find. It's never
The
been.
videotape was everywhere in the
Yeah.
80s. The videotape was in every video store, and it's just a
Yeah.
great time. Oh, by the way, Clemens calls it in the commentary, he calls it Kronos. So, you know, it's like lest we use the word Kronos like the 50s sci-fi thriller with the electrical tower that like terrorizes the country.
Right. So the film stars Horst Janssen as Kronos, and
Yes, Kronos.
who was apparently dubbed, by the way. That's not his voice you hear.
And Clemens was mad about that. He said Jansen was fine in the performance, but Michael Carreras was just being a dick and had his voice dubbed.
Yeah, he didn't like the film.
But he said, but if you watch the takes, he said it was fine. He was just good. There's no problem with him at all.
Yeah,
they also dubbed Caroline Munro.
Yeah, who, by the way, the real star of the movie, Caroline Munro. My goodness,
yeah.
You know, like very, very easy on the eyes. And
she's
John,
gorgeous.
And I love his hunchback assistant, Professor Hieronymus Grost, played by John Cater. And
if that isn't a Brian Clemens name, I don't know what is.
and he's like he's a hunchback assistant who's like the brains of the outfit.
Yeah.
You know, he's not like Fritz from Frankenstein or something, or Igor. Like he's very smart. He just happens to be deformed. But you know, and in this movie, Captain Kronos is hunting a vampire. There's one thing, the way you know they're setting this up for more movies is the vampires in this film, when they suck people's blood, they turn them into old people, like they age them.
Right.
And they'll like walk past flowers, and the flowers die. You see the vampire's a cloaked figure, very mysterious. And Grost looks for he's like, he's burying dead toads in the ground, and if the vampire passes by, the toad will be alive. So there's these weird tests, but he's like, they're like, oh, it's a vampire, but don't vampires do X, Y, and Z? And he's like, aha, there are many breeds of vampire. You know, he's very much the Van Helsing of the bunch. So you know that they're setting up like, okay, we're gonna fight this kind of vampire, but you know, next time he'll fight Dracula or something. Like that.
Clemens said he intended for Kronos to be a time traveler. Like that wagon would travel through time, and he would be in different realities and worlds where he could use his samurai sword. And
so he'd go to Japan, or so, like that indicates he's been to Japan, because Captain Kronos carries around a katana. And so I was watching this going, okay, you know, we have the scene where the guys are mean to Grost at the bar, and then he's like, hey, my horse don't think it's funny you laughing at them. And so he, like, you know, like does the weeb thing where he's like, you know, you've never debated a man like me before, and he pulls out his katana and kills him, which I think that scene should have come earlier in the film, just so we could see how cool he is. It's like 40 minutes in. I think we should have gotten that like fistful of dollars like early on, just to see how what a bad MF he is. But you know, but we get that scene, and so I went, okay, on the spaghetti western to anime pipeline, we're about midway. You know, I was watching this movie going, oh, I see where Vampire Hunter D got all its ideas, because you have the vampires in those. I don't know about I can't remember if it's in the first movie, but in the second movie, you see the vampire flying through the city. And the city is full of crosses. And as he passes through the crosses all go, they all break. And it reminds me of how the vampire passes through the flowers and they all go wither up and die. Like there's all these visual ideas with this mix of even his sword at the end, when he pulls out his blade and you see the reflection of the vampire's eyes in the sword. That was a very Vampire Hunter D moment, even with the sword being curved. And I think
the movie did okay in Japan. I think Hammer movies did very well in Japan.
Yeah. Well, you know, like if you play the original Castlevania for the NES or the Famicom in Japan, the credits are all Hammer horror jokes. You know, like it's like Dracula played by Christopher B. You know, like it has all these references.
for years, Hammer fans would always talk about how they'd heard these bloodier, sexier versions were released in Japan. So Japanese prints of Hammer films were like a highly desired, catch for a lot of. They were holy grails for a lot of Hammer fans.
Is there any truth to that?
I think it's one of those weird autistic things like Dracula's meltdown and Horror of Dracula is 2 seconds longer or whatever.
Okay.
It's that sort of thing. But apparently it was some truth to it. Like there were some versions that were a little bloodier or a little, I don't know if they were sexier, because I think the Italians and the French got sexy versions too, or and Germans as well. But one of our listeners, Holger, is a big Hammer blog guy, and he knows a lot about them, and he might send us notes correcting us or whatever. But in my experience, there is some truth to different versions of the Hammer films being slightly different and depending on the market. Like I've heard Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, apparently there doesn't seem to be a true version of that anywhere. That was one of those that was always, because it's back then they would cut different versions for the markets depending on what they needed.
Yeah.
So just like the Golden Harvest movies, like they're going back at the Hong Kong stuff and they're saying, why are there 4 or 5 versions of this Golden Harvest film? It's because Raymond Chow and Leonard Ho were real big on cutting different versions for different markets. There was no such thing as the director's vision. They'd laugh at that. These are were made to make money.
That didn't come around till that was post like New Hollywood thinking. Yeah,
it's like 1990s Laserdisc thinking.
Yeah. It was kind of it was a home video gimmick, honestly, to sell home videos. Like, oh, Ridley Scott's director's cut of Blade Runner,
Right. He's the final version, really. This time, we mean
this time.
Final version.
How many versions of Blade Runner do you own? 4? Well, there's one more.
Yeah.
You've got
he shot extra footage. He shot new footage for it.
Yeah, right. But this movie, we were talking about the Japanese. I could feel, there is so many ideas from this in anime, but I also felt like the original Blade takes a lot from this too, because it's a swashbuckler. And you even have a swashbuckling finale, which Horst Jansen actually, and the villain who plays the vampire, I forget his name, they were both doing all their own sword fighting. There's no doubles, apparently, in that.
Yeah, and they had apparently a top sword fencing instructor, choreographer working on the film, who worked on other like famous British lensed swashbucklers. And apparently there was top-notch talent working on this, even though supposedly they always claim that they had like no budget or whatever. But no, they actually had some top flight talent working on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an What did you think of the action in this movie? How do you think it stacks up?
I think when you watch it, you have to see it as because obviously, if you compare it to something like Blade or Blade 2, it's not gonna seem like much, or even Brotherhood of the Wolf. It's just, which I think this also inspired Brotherhood of the Wolf.
I was gonna bring that one up too. Yeah.
Yeah, and even the beginning of Brotherhood of the Wolf was totally reminding me of Kronos when I saw it in the theater. I was just like, okay, the girl's out picking flowers in the forest or whatever the hell she's doing, and then the creature comes along and gets her and stuff. It's pretty obvious. But I think when you watch the action back in those days, like if I watch the old Avengers TV show, I'm not expecting the fight scenes to be up to the level of a Shaw Brothers movie or a Jackie Chan or Sammo Hung thing. It's like they did great for the time and what they knew about choreography at the time. And they work within limitations. Like you've seen Assault on Precinct 13, the Carpenter film, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah, many times.
Now, the action scenes in that are really weird and stylized. And I think it's because he didn't have much of a stuntman team. Yeah. So he had to kind of film around the using stuntmen and basically having actors doing things. And it just gave it a weird vibe and feel. And that's kind of what is going on in Kronos. Like there's no like major stunts, but the action is interesting because it's different. Having a guy with a samurai sword, a katana, fighting like guys using Western foils or whatever you call them, sabers. It's just like it's a little weird. It's it's probably hard to choreograph that because the swords are used differently.
Yeah, and you've got the guy wearing the like English European robes, sporting the samurai sword. I mean, how many anime films have you seen that in? You know, I mean, it's just such a common sight.
I do wonder how popular this was in Japan. I don't know if there's any way to find out.
I honestly, I was watching it going, I don't know if you can estimate how, I mean, because I think a lot of it made its way into anime and then it influenced other stuff. And it's like, but I think Vampire Hunter D is the most direct thing I see. Because the vampires are sort of similar in what they do, and he's a vampire hunter, and his
Right.
his parents were like killed by vampires, and he's out for revenge. And Vampire Hunter D, have you seen those movies?
I saw the original, the first one, when it was released on videotape in the early 90s in America, and that's the only one I've seen. And
the newer one, Bloodlust, is very good. I really like that movie. Yeah, I like the original too. The original's a really cool piece of 80s sci-fi Japanese horror, but D has a parasite that lives in his hand, and he has this face coming out of his hand, and it talks to him and tells him stuff and helps him. He's in the first movie and he's there, but he has a really bigger presence in Bloodlust, and he talks to him, and he's very much like Grost in a certain way, like helping him out of jams, figuring out what to do. He's kind of his conscience a little bit. But you also get a lot of Kronos like preparing. He's like smoking like Chinese hashish while meditating and exfoliating and doing all these like rituals, and it kind of builds everything up, like how cool it's going to be, when you finally get him fighting. And I think they do it for a little too long. Like, I think we could have gotten some action a little sooner because they build it up a lot. But it's also fun the way they kill vampires in this. Like, there's this one vampire, they stake him and they're like, oh, this isn't going to work, and we have to hang him in his chair first. And
it was kind of like the killing of Rasputin.
Yes,
that's what it felt like. Who knows where Clemens was lifting his ideas from?
Yeah.
Well, there's a Hitchcock movie, Torn Curtain, where it takes forever for Paul Newman to kill this Russian secret service spy or officer, and or whatever he was supposed to be, and it takes him forever to kill him. And Clemens lifts from Hitchcock liberally, and he admits to it. He says he steals from the best. He takes a lot from Hitchcock, and I wonder if that may have inspired that scene.
Maybe,
it's incredibly difficult to kill this vampire.
Yeah. But what'd you think of Caroline Munro?
She's gorgeous. Again, she's dubbed in the movie. I don't know if her real voice was ever used in anything. But I believe she was dubbed in the film, and I don't know if it was because of her performance or Carreras was just spiteful about the film. Who knows? But she's gorgeous. She looks like she's like Raquel Welch. She looks like a Frank Frazetta woman brought to life in a way.
She does. She does. And she was also in Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Yes.
And a movie we watched recently for a show we haven't done yet, Dracula 1972.
Yes.
But and Spy Who Loved Me. Even the
Bond films. I remember seeing her in the film when I saw that when I was like 5 in a theater. I remember Caroline Munro's face. Like, you just didn't forget her.
But apparently they really wanted her to do nudity in this movie, and she was like, nope, not doing it. And I think the compromise was have the hair over the breasts and have the cinematographer do the sort of Austin Powers like lighting on her.
She was smart. She was smart. Raquel Welch did the same thing, never did nudity.
Yeah, no, it is smart. And in fact, she turned down, I think, Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell because they wanted her to do nudity, and she was like, no, not going to do it.
Right.
So, that was smart of her. But yeah, Brian Clemens, though, I was just looking at his career. What do you think he didn't direct anything else because this movie was just didn't do anything because it was kind of sabotaged by the studio?
It probably had a big factor in that. I think also he may have not liked or enjoyed directing. I often suspect that was a cause. I think he preferred writing.
A lot of
writing
people
was
don't.
easier for him, and
yeah,
directing was because we've talked about this. Why are there so few women directors and everything? And it's because, you don't want to have to be the assholes got to yell at everybody.
Yeah.
And not everybody's cut out for that, and not everybody knows that, hey, you can make it fun like Quentin Tarantino, because supposedly his sets are really fun, or Hal Needham, it's like it could be like a party. But I think most people think being a director means you got to yell at people, and you got to be the jerk, and you got to be the asshole on set, and because you're the boss. And
yeah,
maybe he just didn't dig it. And writing obviously was so easy for him with, like, God, you look at how many scripts he wrote for The Professionals, the show he created, and the quality in his script writing is very consistent. With the Avengers, like, easily my all-time favorite TV show, even the mediocre episodes written by him have a lot to offer compared to just your average good show in America or even England. I mean, of any other series. It's just like he's always consistent, and I think writing was just like he could just crank out scripts as needed. I mean, he was still writing until like the late 90s, early 00s. I think he wrote like a John Larroquette. There's these series of Hallmark mysteries with John Larroquette as sort of a Perry Mason type of lawyer, and Clemens wrote a script for him, like, for that show. So he's consistent.
And I think being a director, you also have to be kind of a political animal a little bit. And obviously he didn't work very well with the studio.
Yeah, he and Carreras, I don't think, liked each other. He wrote Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, which was one of the most acclaimed Hammers of the 70s. And that he does Kronos and directs it, writes it, and then nothing. It's just like he and Carreras don't get along, and
yeah. And but yeah, like you said, some directors make it fun. I mean, I've heard stories about Tarantino like screaming at people, but usually they're like Lawrence Tierney or somebody who's just more difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, like being a director, honestly, you can, if you have a fun vibe on your set, you can go, hey, that's, you don't like something, might be fun if we do this, you just kind of make it like it's all about that vibe, because I definitely have, in my line of work, I have to keep it like that. Otherwise it's not going to go well. Yeah. So it's got to be fun, and you got to keep it fun, and you get a lot more bees with honey, I think, in that regard.
Right. And you're not making high art. Like Clemens made thrillers. He wrote thrillers and mysteries, and that was his skill. Very funny, quirky thrillers and mysteries. That was his skill. But although The Professionals is a pretty serious show when you watch it, it's just hard boiled, and it's Clemens on full testosterone. But something like Kronos, it's got a lot of weird elements and everything. It's odd, because I realize he never directed an episode of the Avengers, and he could have anytime, and he never directed one.
In fact, I actually was under the impression he was directing Avengers episodes, and I looked and he wasn't. He was just
he created the tone and style, and he said, no female victims are murdered in the show. There's no police anywhere. It's all going to be filmed in the countryside of England and small villages, and and there has to be a fight at the end, and that he just kind of set the formula, but he never directed an episode. It's strange.
Do you think this was influenced by Solomon Kane at all?
I wondered about that. This is more like a Solomon Kane story by Howard than that Solomon Kane movie.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
It's way more like it. But of course, Solomon Kane is a, he's like I think he's said to be a Puritan. Yes. It's funny. James LaFawn, when I hung out with him, he told me he believes that Howard intended for Solomon Kane to be an undead hero like Clint Eastwood in High Plains Drifter. Because he said there's a description of he had a ghostly pallor in his skin, kind of like myself tonight, but like super white skin, like a corpse. And he kind of thought he meant him to be like an undead Avenger or some sort of spectral, but he never wrote enough stories to flesh out the idea. But he believes from the descriptions of Kane, that's what he meant. So yeah, it's possible Clemens read. I know Clemens read like crazy. They said he could speed read. His son said he speed read. He would read a book in the morning. He'd read a book in the afternoon. Apparently he had some technique where he read sideways, and he could, or at an angle, and he could read. it's some sort of speed reading technique, but they said he would read like a book or two a day,
Wow.
and
Well,
that's where he got a lot of his inspiration. So who knows?
I'm Garth Marenghi, and I'm the only author who's written more books than he's read.
I got to get that damn Teratome. I gotta get that. They're not selling it at Amazon. You can only get the audio version at Audible, and I think you can buy the Kindle, but you can't get a hard copy. So I'm a big Garth Marenghi mark.
Oh, dude, yeah. Eric was I posted that Guardian article, and Eric was like, "Who is this guy?" And then he knew him from somewhere else. He knew him from this other short film that Mike Malloy was also a fan of. So
okay, yeah.
Garth Marenghi, I will say this. Garth Marenghi is the only intentionally bad show that's like we're making fun of bad movies by making something intentionally bad that's actually funny. It's the only
it usually doesn't work, but it's hysterical.
Everything else I've seen that does that sucks. Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is hilarious, and it pulls it off.
Everything else is trauma, and then there's Garth Marenghi.
Yes. Like Lost Skeleton of a Cadavera, throw it in the trash. It sucks. Oh gosh, there were some other ones, but I can't even remember.
An odd thing about Kronos is did you notice that the villains, like the really feminine man played by Shane Bryant, and then the really kind of masculine daughter or sister who was let me see who played her, Lois Dane playing Sarah, was like kind of masculine. It was kind of a weird kind of a strange androgynous effect. I don't know if he puts that in as a gag or
I also liked the vampire deaths in that last scene. They're very melty. It's just
yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right on that with Kronos. So I know that there's been comics of this. It has continued in comic book form. Are you familiar with those? Are they any good? I've never checked them out.
I know they exist. I have never picked them up or read them, because it seems like these properties, these IPs get licensed for comic books and they come and go so quick. Like you'd never, unless you go to the Seattle Comic Con, the Emerald City Con, like you'll never get a chance to buy one. And then 5 years later they'll end up in some dollar bin at some comic book store out of the way. It's weird.
Yeah, and I usually find these movie properties, when I see continuations of them, they're always disappointing. What's his name? Our friend Lores. He posted recently a review of a Batman comic that was written by Sam Hamm, who wrote the first two Tim Burton Batman movies.
Well, he wrote just the first one. They tossed out his script for returns. That was tossed.
Okay.
Like it wasn't used at all. I've read it. Nothing in it was used except for the same villain.
Okay. All right.
I did not know that. It was lousy.
And Lores didn't like it. He said the artwork's really hung up on the Batman the Animated Series. He said that it's infected with a lot of like kind of political junk.
Right.
And he just wasn't impressed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Sam Hamm's script was heavily rewritten by Warren Scarron, who passed away like the next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he gets a credit. Warren Scarron got enough of a credit, like that the Writers Guild gave him a co-writing credit. So he must have overhauled that Batman script quite a bit.
Okay.
So, and then I know that what's his name? Charles McCown, who wrote Brazil, the Terry Gilliam movie. He also did a rewrite. He came up with the Joker killed Batman's parents, which now I understand the fans are retconning as Batman hallucinates that the current villain is killing his parents. Like he sees Joe Chill as, whatever villain he's going.
Whoever the current guy, that's silly.
Yeah. The fact that we come up with theories like that tells me they need to retire the damn character. I think we've seen every Batman story we'll ever see. I think we've seen all the good ones we'll ever see. Time to just cast that character away. If you want to keep him around for movies, whatever. But
when's the last time there was a Batman arc that people were like, you have to read this? This is gold. Like what was the last one? Like what, Long Halloween or something? Like,
I believe so. It's the only one you hear people referring to.
Like
I
even Frank
mean,
Miller's last run on it was hilariously awful,
oh, he's come out with something like 2 sequels to The Dark Knight. Lores mentioned that I didn't even know. I mean, I knew there was one kind of recent one a few years ago, but I guess there's been another one since then.
There was
Like Frank
Batman
Miller's been
and
writing comics.
there was a Batman and Robin thing, and it was kind
Right.
of like it was mocked for some of the lines.
Well, I think it was intended to be a satire. I think I
Mm.
had the trade paperback of that, and it seemed to be Frank Miller mocking Batman, like he's got him cursing and
Yeah,
just torturing Robin to
yeah.
toughen him up. And it's, Frank Miller to me is not the best Batman writer because in his Gotham City, like it's always Batman's fighting muggers and people stealing TVs and stuff. And I'm like, well, if that's your problem, you just need more cops in Gotham City.
Right.
It's like you bring Batman out for the lunatics who think they're penguins or clowns or a woman controlling plants or whatever the hell. Yeah, the weird, the kind of like in the Avengers, to take it back to Clemen's work, Patrick McNee once described the Avengers as, in every episode, the villain is crazy, but we couldn't say that on TV. You couldn't say somebody was crazy. So you just had to portray them as crazy and let the audience figure it out. He says, but every villain in the Avengers was nuts.
That man wearing makeup and who has a mustache in a purple suit who is dancing.
Yes.
He must be crazy.
Right. Yeah, they let the audience figure it out. And the funny thing is, Dan, our pal Dan, who was on the Doodler episode, he said that comic books were much better when they had 2 big inspirations: Star Trek, the original series, and the Avengers, because you had these hour-long episodic, adventure, mystery conflicts or whatever with a unique villain, and it was resolved by the 3rd act. And that was the best influence for comic books, so they didn't get caught into this long continuity and let's make a reference to 30 issues back and you need to go read that before he said what ruined comic books was suddenly Star Wars was a big hit. All kids wanted was Star Wars, so Star Wars inspires every comic book. So then you're seeing Spider-Man on another planet, and you're seeing intergalactic, you're seeing Captain America on a spaceship and all that type of nonsense. When you make it too big and too vast, you take away the uniqueness of your hero.
And like with Star Wars too, you had the interconnectedness of the world. They put out novels like Splinter of the Mind's Eye and Shadows of the Empire and all this stuff that expands the universe. Well, with comics, it was, I remember reading comics when I was a kid, and, comics were already infected with this by that point. You had the Clone Saga and Spider-Man. Oh, you want to know what's going on? Like there'd be an asterisk and it's like, check out, Spectacular Spider-Man number 108. And then it had whoever the editor is.
Check out Peter Porker annual number 5.
Yeah. You want to know what's going on in this panel? Well, check out Spider-Ham number 58.
Right.
And you don't know who Ben Reilly is. Go back to go back to Peter Parker Spider-Man. There were thousands of Spider-Man books. I mean, how do you wanted to keep up with the saga? You had to buy like 10 issues of a separate book every month. It was
wasn't
too much.
Fun.
No, it was work.
Fun. It was like it was collecting, and it's not fun when it's like that. It should be pick up your story, you get your fun and your entertainment for the week, and it was $2.
And it was deliberately done, I think, because of the wizard crowd. It reminds me of like Frank Miller actually setting fire to a wizard magazine, giving a speech saying this is ruining our industry.
I had no idea. That's hilarious.
Yeah, apparently he did that. He gave some speech somewhere and he set fire to a copy of Wizard and said this is ruining our industry. And he was right.
He was right. He was totally right.
There was this emphasis on collecting. Ooh, we have X-Men #1. You remember that? X-Men #1. It's like this. Everything had to be a collector's item, and if everything is a collector's item, then nothing is. Very short-sighted.
It's manipulative, and it tanked their industry. Yeah, it really tanked their industry, and they've never recovered. I've had plenty of people in the industry tell me that the only reason they still publish superhero comics is to maintain the copyrights and the trademarks. It's to establish that.
nobody buys them anymore. I mean, I don't see them at the grocery store.
They lose money on them. DC loses money on everything they release.
I mean, I would, I think they kind of killed their audience by going for the boutique, comic store
and
audience.
writing for adults.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
writing for adults, and it's you're taking something that's a kid's character and you're writing stories for 30 somethings.
And we've got to aim them at the trendy political stuff of the day.
Yeah, why?
We're gonna change this character to be whatever this trendy thing is.
Right.
We're gonna have our first character who's non-binary. Who's it gonna be? Green Lantern, but not Hal Jordan. It's gonna be that guy who was Green Lantern before him that you never heard of. So
right. It's gonna be the Earth 5 Green Lantern or something.
Yeah,
nonsense.
it's something stupid.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, and it's only intended to maintain
by the way. It's still I said it would be dumb if it was Hal Jordan. I'm just saying, they would do these big announcements, and then it's like, it's Green Lantern, but the original Green Lantern, not the Green Lantern you fell in love with. It's the one who actually has a lantern.
Right. He wears red, the green cape.
Yes. I remember when they announced, this was years ago, I remember DC was going, we're going to announce our first gay character. Who's it going to be? And I remember you go, I hope it's Batman.
I forgot I said that. Thanks for reminding me. I always say funny stuff. I forget. Might as well be. He's never going to marry.
Yeah. You were just like, I hope it's Batman.
Confirmed bachelor Bruce Wade.
Confirmed bachelor Bruce Wade. What, Bruce, when are you going to get married? Well, Joan, I'm just waiting for the right lady to come along.
Based on Rock Hudson and some of those old comics,
Oh, Bruce, it looks like Dick looks a little different this week. He looks a little more like you. Oh, it's just imagining things. Okay. Okay, I want him to look a little more like me when you give him plastic surgery. Bruce Wayne is Liberace. He's turning Dick Grayson into him.
Dan had said if you read those 50s comics that are credited to Bob Kane, he says they're loaded with like Robin in bondage, and he goes, it is a gay comic. He goes, Wortham was totally right. And Frank Miller just didn't want to say it.
The ambiguously gay duo.
Yeah, that's why
Frank Miller had Robin be a chick, Frank Miller was like, oh, Robin's going to be a girl, Yeah,
it was to remove that stigma.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about it, brush it under the rug.
I wish they'd retire the character. I'm sick of Batman. Like, I'll watch the old Adam West show, and I might read some old 70s Neil Adams stuff, but I'm sick to death of that character.
Well, let me tell you,
a rip-off of the Shadow and the Spider, and
Well, let me tell you, in my film class, there's always a few days out of the school year where I'll throw on some 60s Batman. It's always a huge hit. Kids love it. They love it. They think it's great. They love the tone. They think it's fresh. It's fun. I'm telling you, that would, if they went in that direction with it, it would do so well because they all eat it up. Nobody's like, this is dumb. I hate this. I can't take it seriously. Everybody's like, this is great.
Well, they've taken it so seriously that they bore everybody now. It's
I mean, the Robert Pattinson one, I was bored to death. So
it's grim. Like I said, if you cut it down to 100 minutes, you might have a decent movie.
Yes.
But the way the pacing and the dreariness and the darkness, it
takes a long time.
How much longer can you do this?
It takes hours. It takes forever before you get to like a good Batman moment,
I want Batman kicking ass or figuring something out. Like, he needs to be solving a puzzle, and
and he doesn't do it.
Going arresting some guy and beat up some ninjas or something, or just something fun.
Yeah, in this movie, he uses the front door, but he's learning to be Batman. I've seen that so many times. I don't care. I don't want to see him learning to be Batman.
Yeah.
That was something Snyder got right.
Knows what the hell he's doing.
That was something Snyder really nailed. Was he's just Batman now. We're not doing origin again. He's Batman, and he's branding people so that they get murdered in prison. It's awesome.
Because Snyder actually read the comics. He
And
actually
Snyder
likes the
lifts.
character.
Snyder lifts.
He lifts kettlebells, man.
Yeah,
He
that's
does
why film
CrossFit and
critics
stuff.
film critics hate him, because he does this one simple trick. He lifts weights.
Yeah,
he
works out. They hate him because he works out.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
because
but
Joel Schumacher only worked out on little boys. We already know that.
That's true. We know that. We know that. Ask Corey Haim. Oh wait.
Yeah, can't.
Anyway, back to Captain Kronos. Is there anything we didn't cover with this one?
Well, one of the saloon bullies or pub bullies was played by Ian Hendry, the main one, who was the original co-star of the Avengers with Patrick McNee.
Really?
Yeah, when the first season of the Avengers, which was all shot live, and they only saved, I think, 2 episodes have been preserved out of like 25 episodes or whatever. Only 2 have been preserved. The show was a very serious, straightforward spy show with Ian Hendry and Patrick McNee. And Steed did not wear the bowler hat, didn't carry around the umbrella, didn't act like Sir Ralph Richardson in Q Planes, which was the big inspiration for the later version of Steed. It was a very serious, kind of based on Ian Fleming writing type of spy show. And Ian Hendry was the co-star. And then he left the series because he was given, there was a strike at that TV station that produced the Avengers, London Weekend TV or ABC, whoever it was. I think it was ABC, all British, Associated British broadcast company or whatever the hell it is. But Ian Hendry was given movie offers during that strike, so he left to do movies, but apparently had such a drinking problem that career never really went anywhere. So then he showed up, and Kronos, I think Clemens just wanted to kind of do him a favor and give him a good role that he was right for, playing a drunk bully at the pub.
Which one did he play? Was he Ratface or Fatty or?
He was Ratface. He has the long sideburns, the mutton chop sideburns in the nose and everything. But
by the way,
he could have been a star in the 60s, but the bottle got him down, let him down.
It's like Colin Clive, Colin Clive. The drinking just took him out.
Excellent comparison. It's that's very same thing. It's just like you become unreliable, you don't remember your scripts, and not everybody's Oliver Reed, where they could be out drinking all night, show up on the set, and they know all their lines.
Yeah, no, it's
as soon as they yell cut, he's got a drink.
Yeah, Richard.
Not
Harris.
Everybody was Oliver Reed. He was a different animal.
Yeah, Richard Harris, Peter O'Toole. Those guys could drink all night,
compete with those guys.
Show up and no problem. But yeah, Colin Clive. You can even tell on Bride of Frankenstein, even as great a movie as that is, you can tell Colin Clive is just succumbing because he's just so like, oh, leave me to my work.
He wants a brandy.
Looks so uncomfortable. Not being able to drink. But no, one thing that's funny about that scene though, the guy he calls Fatty wouldn't be called Fatty today.
Yeah, isn't that sad and weird?
I'm way fatter than that guy is.
Though so am I. This is what I find funny, and by the way, people on of our political persuasion tend to do this a lot, and I find it really annoying. Is on Twitter they will have a photo what people look like in the 70s, and they'll have beach of perfectly shaped,
and it's like
people.
An ad magazine shot. It's something from like advertisements. It's like
they're all models. They were all model. They had models back then. And it's like I remember what it looked like. It's like people were out of shape too. Nobody worked out. They gave into their metabolisms eventually. It's like we had garbage in our food. It's like, and that was before corn syrup. It's not seed oils. It's just like people didn't look better back then.
No, John, if you stop eating seed oils, you'll stop sunburning. Okay, you won't sunburn anymore if you don't eat seed oils. I don't eat seed oils, and I don't sunburn anymore. Okay,
it amazes
bros watching
me.
this and going, I can tell you eat seed oils, you pig, you pig, disgust me, you pig, you seed oil sucking pig.
Yeah, where does the seed oil thing come from? Everybody gets into a health thing, but
that's taken root in the last few years. I remember hearing Adam Carolla's guy Vinny Tortorich talking about it. But he was just like, oh, it's a Franken food, you should probably avoid it. But on the internet, it turned into like it's the cause of all. In health, there's always they single out one thing that's the problem, right? There's one thing. If you cut this out, you're good. And now it's seed oils. For a little bit, it's like there's stuff that you probably shouldn't eat, like sugar, like refined sugar, like that's just bad for you. You should probably limit that. But but there's always like for a long time it was fat. Like, oh, this is low fat, it's fat free, and then it was carbs, then it's
gluten.
Yes, gluten. And it's like the new like weird online right-wing version of it is seed oils.
Yeah,
the left.
I can tell you exactly what it is. I can tell you what it is. It's none of those things. It's this and this.
Yeah, the phone. Yeah, sedentary
phone
lifestyle
and video games.
Sedentary lifestyle.
Like a coworker of mine years ago, I remember he was boasting to me that he and his wife watch something like 3 hours of television every night. And I was kind of raised to see you got to limit your TV watching and you got to do.
Oh yeah, me too.
But they were watching Survivor and American Idol and whatever the hell and some Star Trek shit. And he's dead. He died a couple of years ago. His widow now claims he was the first victim of COVID in Colorado. But it's just he was overweight and not healthy. And I'm just like, I think that became more acceptable in society because I remember being told when I was a kid, you watch too much TV, get outside and play, or watch too much TV at night, or you can watch an hour and a half. That okay, there's a movie on, you can watch the movie, but that's it. But luckily, TV was so boring when I was young; it was pretty easy to not watch it.
There's so much stuff now,
or do whatever.
Well, and with the computer, with with everything, there's so much stolen focus now.
Yeah,
like it's almost hard to blame people because it's designed to be addictive.
It is
honestly like it's the will to reject it has to come from within. But at the same time, like smartphones and the internet, it's all the algorithms are all meant to keep you. So it's hard.
Yeah.
Hard. But you know what?
It's like working in a casino. The things I used to work at a casino, and the things I would hear, we pump a lot of oxygen into the room we make the slot machines a certain color to attract women to them.
Yes.
Like all these things work in your subconscious. You get free drinks. You're more likely to gamble.
Yes. I remember the one time I went to a casino, it was for work, and we were just like, as a joke, like, oh, let's play some slots. Let's mess around. I'd never done it before, so I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
The lady comes up to me and is like, what do you want to drink? And I was like, well, just give me whatever, beer or whatever. She comes back, hands it to me, and walks off. And I'm like, hey. I go, what? Let me pay you. And she goes, what are you talking about? And I went, you don't want money? She goes, she looked at me like I was crazy. She went, no, drinks are on the house. And I went, huh? And immediately I went, I took a second and I went, oh, they want me to get drunk and spend a lot of money. I got you. So then I went, okay, that makes sense. That's smart. But
no, it's that's why they do it. And it's the same thing with smartphones, the internet, everything that we streaming, it's like now people seem to be waking up that streaming sucks because I guess they're pulling the plug on a lot of shows they're producing now.
And speaking
I've
of
heard about shows getting.
I was just going to say, speaking of and speaking of food, even food is designed to make you keep eating. It's even designed to make your brain go, ooh, I want another cracker. Ooh, I would like another Cheeto. Ooh, I'd like another chip,
Yeah. Well, high fructose corn syrup, I think, is designed to make you thirstier.
Yeah.
Because I get a burn from it if I drink something with that in it. And I still do every now and then, if I want root beer, I can't always go out of my way to get like the good quality sugar root beer or the diet root beers I like to drink, because I still have that. At least I don't drink regular beer too often. But yeah, I'll drink it and I'll get that little weird burn in the back of my mouth. It's like, geez, it's like this corn syrup, it has a bad thing, but I think there's chemicals in it to make you thirsty and to keep drinking and crave that corn syrup sugar and stuff. You get more of those empty calories that you can't burn out,
Yep. Can't outrun your calories, baby.
No, you cannot. It's just like I have to get on my Satan's tricycle to keep from gaining weight. The Schwinn Airdyne, that I have to do the intensive routines on.
You didn't get a Peloton, join your online community of trainers. You don't
I can't figure that out. I don't know.
You don't type in like political hashtags to find your like weird esoteric like cult to join on Peloton.
It's weird. It's really weird because the way I always worked out was always, before I could lift weights, push-ups at night, sit-ups, kind of like a martial arts guy. When I wasn't in karate class, at night I would try to pop out 50 to 100 push-ups. We thought push-ups were the key, for everything. We believed in these myths. The Shaolin monks did 1,000 push-ups a day, which is nonsense. That it's all baloney. But we believed it, but I've always been self-disciplined about that. So I never understood things like Peloton and fitness boot camps and even CrossFit itself. Even though I love kettlebells and some of the methods they use, I don't get the whole workout of the day and having some guy who's 10 years younger and 100 pounds lighter with a 25-year-old metabolism telling you what to do and to do push. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't connect. I'd rather just go run and do push-ups and lift weights on my own. I already know how to do that.
The thing that drives me crazy about CrossFit is they'll get sorry folks at home, my dog's just going crazy and he just he's reached
competing with my cat, obviously.
Yeah, he's reached
I'm sorry, my cats.
CrossFit guys, like I'll talk to a guy at work who will be overweight and he'll go like, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm talking to somebody and I'm doing CrossFit. And I'm like, buddy, you're like pushing 400 pounds. That is going to kill you. That will kill your interest in working out as fast as you start. Because I've seen this where I'll see these like cut fit guys yelling at some dude who's grossly overweight doing the same stuff they do. Here's your workout for the day. And I'm like, that guy goes home, feels like crap, and then the next day is like, I want to do this again. Like you need to be starting out doing something else. Like they have this like one size fits all mentality. And I'm sure somebody will hear this and go, oh, you're wrong, whatever. But I've just seen it be very counterproductive. Even when I was much heavier, I had people try to push that on me. And I was like, this can't be right. This is insane. Like there's no way this is good for me.
I saw it as bad news right away. Cause I think the problem was 300 came out and all the actors in that looked amazing. They look like comic book characters brought to life.
Oh yeah.
And they all worked out with a guy who, Mark Twight, who ran a gym called Jim Jones.
Yeah.
Reference to Guyana was intentional. And he was a kind of an offshoot of CrossFit. Like he left CrossFit and formed his own thing, and he used some of those methods. And so that's what increased the love or interest in CrossFit. And you started seeing box gyms spring up all over the place. Because I was thinking about going to get a cert in CrossFit and maybe opening my own box gym just because I was bored with my job. But the more I looked at the methods and stuff, it didn't make any sense to me. And I said, this is gonna burn out. And I don't think it's gonna take off. And of course, it did take off. It was like it's like the most explosive cult in fitness I've ever seen.
Yeah. I know people I know people who've joined it and then like divorced their spouse, left their family to marry someone in CrossFit. It's crazy.
Yeah. Because you're there with these kind of, I think people get in touch with their inner narcissist.
Oh yeah.
And it comes out in the worst possible way. And you're going to be in there with other narcissists. So you're in there and some ripped chick, she's, there's chemistry there because you both have the same goals and you're going to be a match. And I don't know. I don't see it as a good thing. Go for a good walk. If like your friend or coworker is 400 pounds overweight, hey, have some Jello lunches and go for a good walk every day for
Yeah.
an hour
Let's go on a
or even
walk.
2 hours and just, listen to some decent music or some podcasts like ours. And, just kind of, or maybe take a little couple of light hand weights and do some power walking or something and just get the calories burning. And then if you can, as the months go by, you can develop into other exercises, push-ups. Yeah, I don't even think if you're that obese, I don't think you really need to lift weights. I don't
No,
think
I
it's that
think
important.
just do elliptical cardio,
Body weight, ellipticals, do cardio and body weight, and I think
Yep.
you're good. Just some good resistance exercise, and watch your eating and cut back on calories, and I think you'll
Snacks.
see some amazing results.
So anything else we didn't cover on Captain Kronos we need to get on?
Okay, let me cover here. Nope, I think we got it. This is a very it's a much loved Hammer cult film. It's actually my favorite Hammer film, believe it or not. And Hammer movies are sort of the odd thing that I keep going back and rewatching ones I didn't like and liking them, and then watching ones that I liked when I was a kid and I don't like them. I think I've said this before on the show, but Kronos I like more and more every time I watch it.
Yeah.
Like it's just been a favorite for a long
Well,
time.
it's funny, John, the first time I watched it, I was like, that was okay. It was
Yeah.
okay. And then the more I thought about it, I went, that was actually like really cool. Like that may be one of the most original Hammer flicks ever,
Mhm.
So, I definitely, and that was just a few days after watching it, I just went, that's actually a really, really interesting movie. Yeah, there's a lot of untapped potential there, but I think the film was setting up something that just didn't come, I mean,
Well, there's a cool thing like where Carolyn Monroe's character is being stalked while she's sleeping on that couch, and the camera's panning around a point of view, and it looks like it's almost predicting similar stuff in Suspiria, which was made a couple of years later.
Yeah,
With the color
absolutely.
scheme, the camera work, and everything. A lot of really cool stuff in here, and it's a movie you think about more as you watch it. Like I'm like you, I watched the first time, I thought it was just okay. Every time I watch it, I just liked it more and more. And
Yeah.
I got like the Australian Blu-ray, and then as soon as I bought that, Shout announced domestic Blu-ray, of course, as the curse always goes. But the last time I watched it, was like I was like, this is my favorite Hammer movie. This is just it gets better and better. And Brian Clemens did something new with vampires.
Yeah.
It's not the same old Dracula trying to rehash the Dracula story for the umpteenth time.
Yeah.
He's doing something new. It's not these are vampires walking around the daytime and the just all the different methods here. It's like a Michael Moorcock Eternal Champion thing in a way. It's got a lot of that element. It's just it's got a little of that weird Avengers vibe, that swing in London vibe, style wise. There's a lot to like about this movie, and it's one of those that every time you watch it, you just know something new about it that's cool. And Horst Jansen, highly underrated. A lot of the fan writers kind of dismissed his performance because he was dubbed, but I thought he was a good presence. I would have loved to have seen more of the Kronos movies if had they made them in the 70s.
Yeah, I think this movie is very influential, and I think it's probably one of the more influential movies you've never heard of, and certainly one of the more influential Hammer films you've never heard of. I mean, we know the Dracula and the Frankenstein ones, and but this is one that I think if you haven't seen it, you really owe it to yourself to watch it, especially if you like anime or spaghetti westerns, because you can see a lot of influence from spaghetti westerns in it. Like, that scene at the bar with Ian Hendry is very much a spaghetti western, type of scene. That's very Fistful of Dollars, mixed with
a little Zatoichi in there, a little Chambara too.
Yeah, but yeah, what would you rate this?
I give it a 9. I really dig it.
When I first saw it, I'd give it a 6, but now I give it an 8. I think it's a really solid original Hammer film. I think if you're gonna watch a Hammer movie, it's very difficult to do better than this. It's just it's one that I would put up there with maybe Devil Rides Out, in that both this and Devil Rides Out are the two Hammer films that I think have the most colorful heroes. Most Hammer films are focused on the villains. You have Dracula, Dr. Frankenstein, the werewolf, the Phantom of the Opera. They're all about it's more about the monster. Devil Rides Out, you have Duke de Richelieu, played by Christopher Lloyd, who's this sort of,
Christopher Lee.
I mean,
Christopher
Christopher Lloyd. We gotta stop the devil money. Yeah. No, Christopher Lee. Yes, excuse me. Thank you for catching that. Christopher Lee as Duke de Richelieu, who's this, kind of, it's another one that could be a series. Like, he's an expert on the occult. He's got to, stop evil from spreading. And my dog is trying to eat my phone charger. Here, go chew on my sandal. There you go. And in this one, you also have a colorful hero, Captain Kronos, and those are rare things for a Hammer film. So yeah, I would give this one an 8. I think it's a very exciting, fun, original Hammer film that stands out among the Hammer crowd.
Yeah. And it was nice to see Hammer, try to have a hero that wasn't like a cranky old man like Quatermass.
Yes. A lot of times your heroes are the the Van Helsings or the which I love Van Helsing, but
right.
Professor
Quatermass, or
it's got to be the wise old doctor, and you have heroic characters here.
Yes.
All right.
This is a good hybrid film. This is a good hybrid film. Action, vampires, horror, mystery, some comedy. It's a weird film too. Some sex. It's fun.
Yeah. And I watched this in like the middle of October, but I want to watch it again like real soon. I mean, I was that like, oh man, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like just a fun movie. Anyway, well, anything to plug, John?
No, you love my Blu-ray. So. I did some appearances on Roger Frolian's Then Is Now podcast. You can, I guess, Google that. I'll have to throw some links into our group. But I also appeared on a panel for Dracula films. I'm in there for about 45 minutes because I had to go pick my kid up. But I got in some interesting info about Dracula movies, my opinions, and whatnot. But I also did a show devoted to Robo Vampire, the Hong Kong rarity, and also Mr. Vampire, the Hong Kong classic. Actually, a really good movie. Yeah. So and I gave you a lot of info about that, but go check those out. The Then Is Now podcast, and you can Google it; it'll come up. But I'll put some links in the group.
Sweet.
And join our Facebook group.
Yeah, go check out our Facebook group, and we'll have links to all that in the show notes that I'm sure Stu will put up. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and me and this demon dog Buster, who's a gremlin who's eaten after midnight. Look at him.
You have to put like jingle. You have to put like bells around to alert you when Buster's coming around.
Yeah, me and Buster will say adios.
All right, peace out, everybody.
And now it's time for Rue Britannia with your foreign correspondent, the Nez.
In a move that will surprise nobody other than those who think that Pelosi didn't try to murder her husband, the Indian Prime Minister Rishi Sunak wasted no time in charming the nation by lighting the Diwali lights in Downing Street whilst being scolded by a pensioner over nurses' pay on a visit to a hospital. As a tax-dodging socialist millionaire, he had to basically sit there and take it. Peace, however, on the backbenches currently sits for the time being within the Tory Parliamentary Party, though not the party in the country. Sunak has no mandate from the British people, and the party membership was never given a vote. In short, the grassroots are seething. No wonder why it is that Nigel Farage openly flirts with the idea of a return to frontline politics with the Reform Party, which he will. I've heard of the year of the 4 Roman emperors, but the year of the 3 Tory prime ministers is frankly ridiculous. Meanwhile, MI5 is egg in this metaphorical face, given how it now transpires that ex-Prime Minister Liz Truss, well, it has been, had her phone conversations hacked by Russian intelligence. I don't know just what they expected to pick up from such an airhead, but my guess is that they frankly would have secured very little altogether. Doesn't stop there. The Home Secretary incriminated herself when it transpired that she sent classified emails, unencrypted and unsecured. Nobody really knows if her emails were actually picked up by the Russians in exactly the same way. Then again, it wouldn't be the first time a government minister picked up an MI5 file of their own. These days, I'd imagine it's quite an extensive library of MPs who actually have their own files. Quite disturbing. Give and take. A member of the public was killed after throwing firebombs at a detention centre for illegal immigrants. Public anger over the 400,000 illegals having invaded the UK in the last 2 years now frankly beginning to boil over. Very public-spirited of him. Meanwhile, 3 Muslims were arrested in Bradford over the course of the week after taking it upon themselves to basically engage in riotous assembly with machetes. 2 police officers were injured. Best of luck to the Tories in defending both open-door immigration and illegal immigration at the next general election in 2 years' time. The nation is clearly lacking more third-world legal and illegal immigrants, and clearly if anything, machete crime is somewhat of a cultural issue. Honestly. Further notes in passing, ex-Princess Harry announces that he won't be attending the World Cup in Qatar this month. Between Nutmeg Markle and Qatar, it's clearly a choice of a rock and a hard place. Bros opens in the UK and closes in a fortnight. Billy Eichner's hunger strike continues. And Shirley begins his backbench campaign to destabilise Rishi Sunak by flying to the COP27 summit in Egypt, when the Prime Minister decided not to go at all. Maybe Sunak can hire the same guy who effectively tried to murder Pelosi. Pax.